If you're really serious about wanting to make money, it's more about slowing down. It's just being able to be willing to trust, to know that I was able to save lives is like beyond. And I had a brother that passed away, and he took his life years ago when I was just a young teenager. And it was super hard. It's really hard to love other people if you don't love who you are.
And that is exactly what today's episode is all about, guys. But before that, our guest today is a business and life coach and also a Reiki master. She helps people release blocks and be able to move past the things that they are holding them back. She created the Dobrishan technique in Reiki, and she worked in a dental office for a couple of years before starting her business. That's where she basically learned her communication skills. We talk about how we lost our connection to self and nature and how we don't develop intuition anymore. How she received a message to move houses and sell her business, and how everything happened for the good when that occurred. We also touch upon how we have a broad idea of what our lives should be like, and the universe changes events for the better. Even though in that particular moment it all feels like it's falling apart, it's all for the better. We talked to Donna about how we need to trust the universe, and I also challenge her asking if we have any free will at all. We also touch upon the throat chakra and the blockages that come with it, and Donna tells us a very powerful story on this regard and how to unblock your throat chakra as well if you need to. Also, we talk about how majority of technology is not serving our own purpose and how it basically works just as a distraction and a waste of time for majority of us. But I will leave you guys to it. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Donna Gammon. You are listening to The Grateful Show with your hosts Pascu
and Bogdan. Join us on our mission to spread awareness around mental health and make people feel happier and overall more grateful.
Each week, we bring you an inspiring guest, stories, and a message that will help you become your best self and pursue your life mission.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Grateful Show. Hope you are doing fantastic. And if you are not, you're about to be, because today we have no one other than Donna Gammon. How is it going, Donna?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show.
Our pleasure.
Brilliant.
Just to break the ice, I'm just going to ask you, what are you grateful for today?
Oh, I am grateful for my family. I just had twins in our family, and I'm very grateful that they're healthy and doing well. And so I'm really grateful for our family today.
Brilliant. How old are they?
They are 2 weeks old, but I'm helping my
Wow.
daughter out. I've been helping her. So thank goodness I have a wonderful business that I can adjust my schedule. So I'm able to help her out because she absolutely needs help at this time. So it's been wonderful though.
Can you imagine? Donna, for our audience that doesn't really know much about you, can you give us a brief introduction in who you are and how you came to be where you are, please?
You bet. So my name is Donna Gammon. I am a business and life coach, and I'm also a Reiki master. So I actually help people release blocks and be able to move past the things that are holding them back so that they can live a healthy, happy life and be able to grow their business to where they want it to be.
How did you actually been able to, I guess, incorporate life coaching with business coaching? Because I myself know that they are pretty much intertwined, I guess, both of them. But how did you come to like combine them together?
So it's kind of funny, but I started out as just a life coach and incorporated Reiki, with that. And I found that as I was doing life coaching, Reiki kind of just messed with it because so many people have so many blocks and so many things that are holding them back. And as I got them through their life challenges, a lot of clients I was working with also had businesses. And they were needing help with business. So I realized that there was this shift kind of happening in my business. And there were several ladies that I was working with at the time that also needed business help. So I decided to open up my academy and actually start helping with business as well. And so that's kind of how it kind of happened. And, when the universe calls you to do something different, it's so funny because everybody says you're so good at Reiki. And I've created also my own modality as well. It's called
Okay.
Dobration. And
Mm-hmm.
Dobration is it's kind of something I kind of created name wise because it has my name, Donna. I also have a son named Dylan, and then Brianna. So that's Do Bree. And then
Mm-hmm.
Shun is Shanna, my daughter. So Dobration. And it's Dobration technique. It's awesome. And my clients that are healers actually love it because it takes their if they do Reiki or any other kind of modality, it adds to it because it has a lot to do with your intuition and being able
Mm-hmm.
to grow that intuition to be able to help clients at a deeper level. So it's pretty awesome.
I love
Fair
that. I
enough.
love that.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. And I'm just curious now, what's the reason you have started like doing this coaching? And what were you doing before? What was the moment for you that you said, okay, enough with what I'm doing, I want to do something else, or what happened?
To be honest with you, I felt like the universe was setting me up. So I just had this strong urge to learn how to be a life coach. So I
Mm-hmm.
went into getting my certification for life coaching, and I also got my Reiki certification and continued that on as well. And I was a dental assistant. I actually worked in an office for years and years, and it was wonderful. It helped me actually learn how to
Mm-hmm.
connect with people at a really deep level because as you know, going into a dental office, you have to really put people at ease when they're in a very
Yeah.
stressful and in a lot of pain, so you really have to
Mm-hmm.
help them. So I learned how to do that. So that was a skill that actually helped me as I moved on to being a life coach and a Reiki healer. So that job, I ended up going into marketing, and the dentists that were I was marketing for actually were going on to a different office. And so they were actually getting rid of that position. So I was either asked to go back into another office, which I could have done in this corporation, or go off on my own. And at the time, I felt like I was totally prepared and ready to make that change. And that's what I did. So I feel like the universe just called me and said, okay, you're ready. Now is your time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I did. And I've never looked back. It's been the best decision I ever made. So, yeah.
Fascinating. Donna, you were mentioning in one of your videos, which I quite liked actually, was about the fact that you had to wake up at 3 a.m. just because you felt like you had, I guess, some messages,
Mm.
some thoughts that you had to write down. Can you talk to us and our audience a bit more about that, please?
Oh, absolutely. There are so many times that I have been called or given a message in the middle of the night. So if I wake up at 3 a.m. or 4, if I wake up at a certain time and I'm wide awake, sometimes I wake up to actual words that are given to me, and I immediately get up and write those down because I know it's a message to me. And the more I'm connected to source, meaning I'm meditating, I'm doing my gratitude, I'm praying, and just doing all these things to really keep myself really grounded. Those are the moments that I really receive profound messages. So yes, I love when I get woken up to some specific things that are told to me.
Awesome. And now I'm really curious. What's the like? What would you consider that there would be the most important message that you have received so far?
Ooh, wow, that's a big one because I've gotten so many profound ones. Um, there's, mm, wow, I don't even know how to answer that with. I have one that just has come to me recently. I'm going to just talk about that one first, because I really feel I woke up to the words connection coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the universe was trying to tell me that I learned how to connect with people at such a deep level that I can actually teach people how to connect better. And so not just on like a surface level, but on a deep level, like spirit to spirit level. And so that was a really profound one for me. I've had messages that my husband, that I've been married to now for almost 11 years, was like,
Congrats.
he was the one. Like I was given that direct message about that. Uh, so many things. I don't even know where to begin because there's just so many different things, but those are a few that are pretty profound for me.
Mm-hmm,
So.
mm-hmm. I would like to talk about intuition and how unfortunately the Western world has, I guess, pushed away all the holistic approaches of the East, and how more or less the big majority of the people living in the West, including Europe as well, we just lost connection and we are not able to have any intuition whatsoever. What's your take on that?
I think it's sad because when we lose track of, and I think a lot has to do with the way our world is now. Everything's fast paced, everything's go, everything's about trying to make money. And really, if you're really serious about wanting to make money, it's more about slowing down and listening, because you will learn more about who you are and what you are here to do by just taking time to be quiet. And that quiet, that silence, those are the moments that you receive the most profound messages. I mean, I've been directed where to move, I've been directed where to go and who I was going to help. I mean, I could give you so many different scenarios. My husband and I many times have been directed on, like, we needed to sell a house, we needed to move to a certain state, and within a matter of a day, as we put our house on the market, our house sold. We had a business that sold. And I mean, it was just all of these things just like fell into place. And now that doesn't always happen, but it doesn't always mean that you're not supposed to go too, because sometimes there's just lessons you need to learn. Or maybe there's certain things that you heard part of the message, but maybe not all of it. So, and I'll give you a specific to that. We actually were called to move to another place. We just knew that we were supposed to be, well, we knew that we were supposed to sell our house. That we knew. We just got this message that, it was time. But what we didn't know is, we knew there was somebody we were supposed to help, but we thought it was his sister in a certain area. But as we went back and said, somewhere we're missing something, and then we realized it was actually in a different state with someone, it was one of our kids needed help. And when we figured that out, our house sold in a matter of we were under contract in a few weeks. Everything fell into place. We didn't know where we were going to live till 2 weeks before we actually came here. Literally, we were packing up our stuff, putting it on a moving truck, didn't have a place to go to. And a place opened up right as we were about to come here, which was right by my daughter. So you just have to listen, and those things happen. It's just being able to be willing to trust. And that's hard to do, because a lot of people, they have to have everything in order. I mean, think about it. If you've got a moving truck, you don't even know where you're going to bring your stuff to. That's hard to do, to trust that there's something that's going to open up for you. And it did. And it did, right where we needed to be.
Yeah.
So,
Congrats for listening to to your core. Let's put it this way. And I completely agree. Actually, I'm just listening to an audio book. It's called the 80/20 Principle, which is very popular. And the author says that most of our big events that happen or are going to happen in our life are like due to not necessarily random, but you can say that it's not necessarily something that is planned, because let's say that you want to go to a college, but like a good thing will happen because you met someone, and that someone will put you into connection with someone else, and then from there maybe you'll get another job. It's not just necessarily because you went to the college. That was just like the first step, but by
That
listening.
is so true.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we have our own ideas of what our life should look like. And so, like somebody, like you said, maybe you're saying you want to go to a specific college, but the universe says maybe, you don't get accepted that college. But maybe it's not because you're not supposed to go there. Maybe it's because you're supposed to meet someone else first, or, those kind of things. So yeah, it's just being willing to just trust that whatever happens. And sometimes when one door shuts, another one opens, and that's a beautiful thing. So don't look at a no or a, something that maybe, like I said, a door shuts and closes because maybe that's because it's supposed to move you to another place. And that's exactly what happened to me years ago when I was going into the dental field. I had a door close on me. And because of that, I went specifically to an office and I got hired that day. I mean, and that would never have happened had I have not gotten that one door that closed. And that was a huge shift and change in my whole life. That was very profound as well. So yeah, I love that you shared that. So thank you for sharing that. It's totally true.
I think it's very worth asking you, and I really want to know your take on this, Donna. Do you think we as people have any willpower at all?
Yes, I think we definitely do. I think that so when I say you trust, willpower comes from within, right? And so our knowledge that we receive, and I believe in God. So for me, it's God, but for somebody else, it's the universe or, source or whatever it is for you. But I believe in God. So for me, it's God. And he guides me and directs me, but I have that willpower within me to, like if I'm desiring something, I can definitely shoot towards that. It doesn't mean that I'll hit that, exact mark, but I know that I can get darn close or even exceed that depending on where I'm supposed to be at that time. I just trust that whatever happens is supposed to happen. Now, when I say that, I don't accept, like if I have a desire or I have a goal or I have something I'm shooting for, I don't just like give up or say, oh, it's just not meant to be. I just say, okay, maybe there's something I need to learn first. Maybe there's something that needs to happen first. And then I can get to that place. And everything I've ever done in life, I've achieved, but it's also not all been easy. I had to maybe learn something new. I had to work hard for something. I had to change a few things. But as long as you're willing, it's there. And so we do have a willpower. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I love that. I love how you answered it.
Yeah, and that's the
Thanks.
mentality. We should all, we shouldn't take a no as a no. We should just take a no as an opportunity, maybe to try again or to just do something else different.
Or shift.
It's your call.
Yeah, it's kind of
Exactly.
like, I kind of shared with some of my clients that sometimes you come up to a roadblock. It doesn't mean that means you stop. It means that maybe now you have to maybe do climbing, maybe you have to go up just a little bit to get over that wall to go just a little bit further. And maybe that is with help. Sometimes you need a little help to get over that wall, right? So you just got to look at it in that way. Those roadblocks come, but it doesn't mean it has to stop you. It just means now let's figure out how we can get up and over it and get on to the
Mhm,
next,
mhm.
over that little hurdle.
Talking about roadblocks, I would really want to dive deeper and further into actual blockages. And you were mentioning throat chakra blockages, and where people are basically not able to show their entire, I guess, emotion and how, the way they feel. Can you
Mm.
talk a bit more about that and how and why a lot of people are going through this, I guess, blockage?
You bet. So the throat chakra is probably one of the most closed chakras that I see in clients. And the reason that the throat chakra is closed most of the time is because a lot of us do not speak our truth. And what that means, it doesn't mean that we have to be mean or rude or, crude to somebody. It means that if we feel something inside, we share it. We don't hold back. So we don't expect someone else to just know how we feel. And we can say things in a very kind way without hurting someone's feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need to say some of those hard things that maybe are hurtful, but we don't necessarily have to say that to their face, meaning personally, we can say that to their spirit. So let me explain. So there was a couple that had some issues with their marriage, and she would work a little bit later than he did. And so she would get home about an hour later, and he had been home for an hour watching TV, just sitting on the in front of the TV. And she would be so frustrated because she would walk through the door and he hadn't started it. So she had to start dinner as soon as she walked through the door. And by the time she did dinner, cleaned up, cooked, cleaned, it was time to go to bed. And so she would get so frustrated because if he would just help, it would have, been able to make the process a lot easier and she could have enjoyed her evening too, right? So when she walks through the door, she already has that frustration inside of her, right? So, as you probably know, energy, you can feel energy. If somebody has an argument and you're in the room or you walk in the room after someone just had an argument, you can feel the tension, right? You can feel the
Mm-hmm.
energy in the room. It's because the energy is negative. It's just not a good feeling. So you can feel that. So think about if you're thinking something negative about your spouse or somebody that you're just walking into the house, they are going to feel that energy the instant you walk through the door, right? Yeah. So what she did is she spoke to his spirit before she got home. And I kid you not, this really happened. She spoke to his spirit in the car. She asked that his spirit would come so she could share with him all those things. And she just got it all out. I mean, all the frustration, all the things that were bothering her. And she said she got home, she walked through the door, and kid you not, he was in the kitchen. And she said, "What are
Wow.
you doing?" And he said, "I don't know, the weirdest thing. I had this feeling that I should just get up and maybe start dinner." He literally was in the kitchen cooking dinner, had already started it. And he's like, "Oh, just go have a bath and relax until dinner." She about fell over. She's like, "This stuff works." And it does. I time and time again, there's so many clients that I've shared this with, and they, it's just because we're holding it inside. And so again, you can speak it to them or you can speak it to their spirit. Either way, it works. Or you can write it even out. You know how they talk about writing out your
Yeah.
frustration, your feelings? Same thing. It's getting it out. And what that does is it allows your throat chakra to open. Now, when I do like clearing and opening chakras, I can open them, but if they don't speak their truth and get those things out, it'll just close back up after a while. So you just need to make sure that you're just being true to your spirit. If you're feeling something, then share it. If it's something that's really hurtful, maybe do it to yourself. It's not always okay. I mean, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings necessarily. And some things they need to know. Some things it's okay to share with them in a very kind, loving way. So, she could have said, I really could use some help in the kitchen. I would love it if you got up and helped me so that when I get home, the process is easier. She could have done that. But at that point, she was so frustrated that she probably just would have yelled
Bursted.
and,
Yeah.
it would have been terrible, right? So she chose to get it out before. And then the energy as she walked through the door was like, she just let go of it. It was gone. Like she got it out. And then her energy was really good as well. So there was this nice connection between them. So does that explain it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
definitely does.
definitely. And maybe if people would apply it everywhere in their life, like not necessarily in their personal life, but in their
everywhere.
business or everywhere, maybe
Everywhere.
it will help them so much.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
your business everywhere your family, your work life, just everywhere, because sometimes you have somebody that maybe is a little ornery at work, maybe to you. And so that's hard. That's a hard place to be. And so you could just speak to their spirit and be able to let go of that. And so maybe they still have some frustration, but when you walk in, the energy is different and they feel that. You have peace, yet they don't. And maybe they're then like, what's going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times people do that because they want to get you riled up. They want to get you frustrated, And so when you're not and you have that inner peace, it just changes everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Thank you for
true.
sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Just changing a little bit the subject and the vibe. I'm just curious, what experience are you the most grateful for so far?
Wow. I think my experience that I'm grateful for is that I've been able to literally save lives. And I don't say that lightly because I have had so many different clients that have actually shared with me that they were at that breaking point of, they just thought, what is it worth, to even live life? To know that I was able to save lives is like beyond. It almost like brings tears to my eyes because it's so powerful. And I had a brother that passed away, and he took his life years ago when I was just a young teenager, and it was super hard. And I remember how hard that was on my mom. And that was part of my driving force to help people, is to help them before they get to that breaking point. And, that was kind of how I started. But knowing that I've been able to help some of those that were there is all worth it. Everything. It's just, yeah, it just like lights your soul up to just know. So yeah,
Donna,
that's been my
we definitely know that prevention is better than a cure because it's way lighter and it's I guess it takes less time and effort. But and with that said, what would be 3 things that you would recommend to our audience listening that they can implement literally today or tomorrow to ground themselves, to be happier, and to make sure that they will never get into such a low point in their life?
This is a really, really good question. And I love this question. So, one of the biggest things that I find is that people that don't love who they are, it's really hard to it's really hard to love other people if you don't love who you are. So one of the things I would suggest that they do, and it's called mirror work, and some people probably know what it is and some don't, but I had clients that literally could not look in a mirror and say, I love you. There was no way that they could look in their eyes and say that. So I want you to try, those of you that are listening, try to look in a mirror and say, I love you. And if you can't, then I want you to turn to the side and I want you to see your peripheral vision. And I want you to say to yourself, I want to love you. I want to love you. And pretty soon your head will turn and you'll be able to say, I love you. When you get there, you're going to just feel amazing. So that's one thing. I think the second thing is nature, because nature heals so much. If we get out, walk, hug a tree, take your shoes off and walk in the grass and ground yourself, being able to ground yourself is so, just an amazing, amazing thing just in itself. And that's just walking around barefoot in the grass and feeling nature below your feet. And that stabilizes who you are, and being in nature too, and just really observing nature. What are the birds doing? What is nature doing? How are the trees responding as a wind? And there's so much that nature teaches us. So just being in nature in itself will bring this peace within you. And then the third thing I think is having some kind of routine that is powerful. And you are the gratitude show, so I'm going to talk about gratitude, because gratitude is absolutely one of the most amazing things. And what I have clients do is to pick at least 3 gratitudes every day, something that is different than the day before and the day before and the day before that. So you're always looking for something. And it could be as simple as, I'm grateful for how my husband said good morning today. I'm grateful for the way he touched my shoulder and how I felt. Sometimes it's just thinking about those feelings that are going on inside of us, and, what touches us, what makes us happy. Maybe it's just hearing the birds chirp outside because they're so happy. It's just any of that, but gratitude will change your life. So I love your show. I love that it's all about gratitude. That just makes me super happy. But that is definitely one of the other ones that I would definitely recommend as well.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, awesome. And it's really, really important to know your core and to start your day by actually just knowing that maybe there is the last day that you have. And I'm really curious, because I know that it's very subjective for person to person, but what would you say that is the meaning of life, or what would you consider that is the meaning of life for yourself?
The meaning of life. I think the meaning of life is finding something beyond yourself. So when we're so focused on us, we can't, you really have to think about, how can I make, of course you want to live a better life, but if you serve others, that's the meaning of life, serving and giving back, because you get so much more in return. And you think that by giving, they're getting, well, they are, and they're receiving, but it does something inside of you that I can't even explain. You just have to feel it. So serving, taking it away from you and serving someone else will totally, that's the meaning of life to me. It's just giving back.
A life of service.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that. I would say that the more we give, the more we receive, and I think
Oh,
something happens
absolutely.
within
That's what I
us.
said. Yeah.
Yeah, within us and within our energy, within the universe, that
Yeah.
the more we give, the more we receive, and there's always that reciprocity law that works for all of us.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people believe that to not be true, and they tend to be greedy and self-centered.
Mm.
I was reading Dennis McKenna's Food of Gods last night, and he was basically mentioning how we've got away from nature and our purpose here. We became
Hmm.
self-centered, and because of the way that the male started dominating the female energy, the feminine energy, we basically got to a point where we are technology driven, money driven, and ego driven. And that's why right now we are struggling to heal the planet. We are struggling to even educate people on why we need to heal the planet in the first place.
Mm. I really love that you brought this up because my husband and I have been having this conversation about, all of the technology, all of
Mhm.
the stuff, all of the people that are now struggling so much because they're so involved in, what everybody else is doing in the world. And then it's like, well, what's in it for me? Um, and we've realized that by stepping back and reevaluating, like even what we watch on TV, are we bringing that good energy into our home? Or are we bringing something that's going to be negative, that's not going to serve us? So we think about that on a routine basis. Is this something that's good? And
Mhm.
is it going to help us? Is it really, just something that wastes our time? I like to watch things that are educational or something that I'm learning something about. That's just who I am. And once in a while, I'll watch just a movie, but it's rare. I don't watch a movie just to sit down and watch a movie, or a show just to sit down and watch a show. Although I have, don't get me wrong, I'm human. I have, but I try not to get caught up in that because I have before. Those series, they have those series, they get you going and then they get you
Mhm.
caught up in it. But we realize after we've done that, that did this service? Did we waste a lot of time with something that really wasn't anything that really helped us here? And again, I'm all about serving and helping and doing good in the world and learning myself. Like I want to learn more so I can help more people and so I could do more and so I can serve more, and those kind of things too. And maybe that's just my personality, but that's just who I am. So I don't like to waste a lot of time on that. And I think the social media has totally changed this world. I mean, it's just a different world. We have
Mhm.
anxiety like crazy now. We have stress. We have suicide is just like at an all-time high. It's terrible. But it's because people are seeing lives that really aren't, they look perfect, but they're not perfect. None of us are perfect. None of us have perfect lives. We can strive for that, but it's never going to be perfect. And I think that's where the distortion is people see only like the good that people post. So I'm seeing more and more people post a little bit more of the negative stuff as well, because there's just so many that think, life is just perfect. Well, it's not. But anyway, so I think the social media and I think a lot of the things that are out there are not the best for us. So I work on social media. I do social media. So I have to be on it, but I limit myself so that I'm doing more work related things or connecting with people, you know, not just surfing, and you know what I mean? Like just spending hours and hours of time on just looking at other people's stuff. I don't do a lot of that,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
that's me. And yeah,
I
I'm
think
sorry,
the
go ahead.
problem comes down to the fact that majority of people are not purpose driven, and once they get
Oh,
sucked into this whole loop of seeing what other people are up to or seeing the trends or watching a funny video, they get caught up in that, and
it's so
that
true.
more or less gives their lives a meaningless purpose, if you wish, a purposeless purpose. And I think as long as they would be more mindful of how they are using social media and actually mindful that they are using social media is not the other way around, I think there would be
Yeah.
some benefits as well, because um, in the pandemic, especially, I think a lot of people realized how useful it is to connect with other people. But
Mhm.
again, I think it comes down to the fact that people don't have that, I guess, mindfulness around them, and they don't realize how they get sucked into binging on Netflix or like narcotics or alcohol. We have this, I guess, addictive
Yeah.
characteristic in all of
Addictive
us, and
behaviors.
some of us are able to manage that and control it, whilst others just drown in it.
It's true. And I know that there's different personalities out there and some get a
Mm-hmm.
little more sucked in than others. It's true because I have clients and I even have family members, that they have issues as well. And so, it's knowing what our weaknesses are and knowing where to kind of manage those and maybe limit some of those things because we know that it's not doing us well. It's not serving us. It's making our anxiety worse. It's making the stress worse and, those things. So it's really just being aware of who you are. And I think doing a lot of the mindfulness, like meditation, and meditation doesn't have to be just sitting quietly, although I do recommend that because
Mm,
sometimes just no thought and letting thought come in is so profound. But you could just go for a walk in nature and just be very observant of what's around you. That's mindfulness. That's a form of meditation. So, it doesn't have to be this big profound thing, but just being aware of your surroundings, your atmosphere. Even, sometimes I'm in my office and I can hear the cars running outside, just zoom zoom running to work early in the morning. And sometimes I'll sit here in meditation and listen to that, and I'm grateful that I get to be right where I'm at, that I don't have to rush. I don't have to rush to work or rush here, or rush there. So, it's those little things that you're just grateful for,
mm-hmm.
that really help. So, yeah, I love where you're going with that. So true.
Yeah, and I love the way that you have portrayed it, that everybody has weaknesses and everybody has to find them and work on them. And I'm
Hmm.
just curious now, what's one thing that you would change about yourself that you don't necessarily like, or maybe just stays in your way with what you want to achieve in the future?
I think that probably there is a little bit of organization. I have to be, and I'm really organized in my house, but I have to plan things because if I'm not organized and I don't like plan out my day, I I allow like I love to help people. And so if somebody calls and says, hey, I need this, or hey, can you help me with that? I'm like, oh yeah, and I get caught up in that. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing to help people, but if I don't structure out my day and say, okay, from this amount of time, I'm going to do these things, and this amount of time, I can do these other things, then it helps me to be able to get more done. So I think that that's my weakness is that if I'm not structured in that, and any business owner knows that if you don't plan your day, if you don't plan to succeed, you plan to fail. So I learned that the hard way over realizing that I can have it in my mind, but until I put it on paper and put it down, it doesn't always come it doesn't always get done, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely one of my weaknesses for sure. Do you need more than that? I can
No,
give
I
you
think
more.
that's
I have a
I
lot
think
of weaknesses too, just like everyone else. But organization is definitely one I have to work on for like business organization. So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. I just wanted to dive a bit further because we are approaching the end of our show and conversation, and I want to know, Donna, what do you want to be remembered for or as long after you are
mm,
gone?
I think I want to be remembered that for knowing that I cared enough, that I it wasn't, for me, I don't want, yes, I'm a business owner. Yes, of course I have to make money to, continue on with my business, but I want to be remembered for being the person that wanted to help people and not the person that just wants to make money from somebody. I don't ever want to get to that space to where that's more important. As a business owner, if you realize if you serve and help people, the money will come. That's not the problem. The problem is when you focus on the money, that's when it becomes an issue. So, of course, again, you have to make money, so it has to be in place, and I allow people to serve me too, by paying me for my services, but I make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I give them as much as possible for, what they're purchasing. I want to make sure they're very, very satisfied and very happy with what they receive. And so that's really important to me, and way more important than the money, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
I
Thank
just
you.
make sure that that's not my driving force at all. My driving
Mm-hmm.
force is helping people.
Very deep. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we got to be aware of your time and our audience time. So we're just going to ask you the last question. Just take your time if you need it to answer it. So imagine that you are on your deathbed. So you are about to die, but right next to you is the best version of you looking at yourself. You see and comprehend what you could have become. So how would you feel about yourself in that specific moment?
Hmm. I hope that I would feel like I did everything that I could in that moment to be the best person I could, to love more, to serve more, and to be more, for myself and for those that I love. I want people to remember me, that I was always there, that I was always there. So that's my biggest thing. I want to be always that. I hope that I'm remembered for the person that was cared enough, that I helped in any way that I could for those that needed me. Even if they didn't ask, that I knew that my intuition told me that they needed help. So, yeah, I hope that, I guess, does that answer your question? So I'm talking to my,
Definitely.
okay. Well, I appreciate that. That's a great question because it does make you think, wow, have I done enough? Did I do enough? And have I, done everything I could? So,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
most definitely.
That
I mean, there's so much you can do, and in this life, there's always gonna be moments when you're gonna feel like you haven't done enough, but you gotta be grateful for what you have done so far,
oh,
and
yes.
you gotta like accept that what you have done. If you feel like you, and if you know that it was like centered and aligned with your purpose, well, that's more than enough. And yeah, thank you so much again for coming
You're welcome.
on our show and sharing all these amazing stories and your imagination and the way that you think. And yeah, just before we let you go, you have the red carpet in your face. So if you can tell our listeners where they can find you and how you can help them again.
And
You
tell them
bet.
about the podcast as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I have a podcast that's called Power to Grow. And I do highlight a lot of entrepreneurs as well on my podcast. And that's to, I want to serve people. I want to help people. So I want to make it a win-win. Of course, it helps my podcast, but it also helps others that are trying to get their message out there to others. So it's called Power to Grow. And it shares people's transformational real life stories. So I have them share where they started, because a lot of people start from a really not such great place, but they're able to work through that, because I want you to know that there's hope. So if you're going through the similar situation, there's always hope that you can get through that and, actually become successful in the end, because there's a lot of very successful entrepreneurs out there. So I do share a lot of that. And I have a business that's Life Healing Solutions, and it's lifehealingsolutions.com. You can also find me on at Donna Gammon Coach on Instagram, and then also on Facebook as Donna Gammon.75. Not sure why I did that, but that's what it is. And then I also have Life Healing Solutions, my page as well, on Instagram, or excuse me, Facebook page as well. And
Brilliant.
I also have a free group. So if you go onto my Instagram, Donna Gammon Coach, you can also, in there'll be a link for a free business group that I have in there as well. So if you want to work with me, I give a lot of really cool free information on my free group to share with other entrepreneurs and things like that. So if you want to check out that, I also have an academy. I have a few different things that I, created over the years. So yeah, just come check me out, lifehealingsolutions.com.
Brilliant. All the links will be down in the description box, and I can definitely, from my own experience, recommend Donna's podcast. If you like our podcast, you'll definitely love her episodes and the people that she's interviewing. And yeah, with that said, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you guys have taken something out of this podcast. And yeah, with that said, I'm Pascu.
This is Bogdan, and you guys stay grateful.
Thank you so much for sticking all the way till the end. This shows that you are serious about taking your life to the next level and doing that through a perspective of gratitude. If you enjoyed this interview, it would help us massively if you could give us a 5-star rating or review on iTunes, or else share this on your stories and tag us. This way, with your help, our message will be seen by more people, and together we will make this world a better place.